says Daf 16a on the left.
Yes. So, again, we're going to dedicate this shir, this learning Torah, for the safety of the people in Eretz Yisrael and all over the world. Jewish people, everyone should be safe and shouldn't have to worry.
I said we're worried.
Yeah, I'm saying we shouldn't have to, and we should be in a situation where we shouldn't have to worry.
Or your pistachio shells.
Yeah. So, last week we were discussing about the Mabul, the flood, which is actually this week's Torah portion. So it's very timely what we're learning about right now. And we were also discussing about the different mazoles, which they call zodiacs, things like that. And it says in this Gemara over here that the way Hashem brought about the Mabul was that there's a certain Mazal called Kima. And this Kima, if you look back on page 35, you see there's a diagram on the bottom. There's A and B. And the way they put Kima, they put it as part of...
Oh, I see it. Yeah.
They put it part of Tzileh, which is Aries. So it's not really its own mazel, but it's part of another mazel.
Which one is the water bearer? Aquarius.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's not part of Aquarius.
It's part of...
So is Aquarius. Yeah.
Yeah, yes.
Yeah, then it's Pisces. How do I know? It's me.
No, Aries is an air sign, right? Kima is a flood. Okay.
So it says Hashem, the way Hashem did it was Hashem took out two stars out of Kima, out of this mazel, and that caused the flood to come to the world. And we were discussing, when did the Mabul take place? When did this flood happen? Was it in the month of Cheshvan or was it in the month of Iyar? Because it says that the flood started on the 17th of the second month. Which one is the second?
And this is Cheshvan now, right?
So right now we're in Cheshvan. So it depends which one is the first one of the 12 months. If we start from Nisan, then the second month is going to be Iyar. If we start from Tishrei, the second month is going to be Cheshvan. And based on that, whether it was in Cheshvan or Iyar, it would also make a difference where these mazolos, where they would be situated, because they keep on moving, they keep on rotating. And if it's in Iyar, it would be more in a hot season, and it wouldn't really make sense that there should be a flood, which is also connected with a lot of water coming out. It wouldn't really make sense that it should be happening, the flood should be happening during Iyar. So why did it?
In that area of the world.
Hello.
Yeah.
Oh, we have two more places to ask.
Welcome. Welcome. What?
We're out of books, we're going to have to share. All right.
Yeah, here.
Okay, great. Hi, Silika. Welcome. Okay, so we're on page 36 in this book, in Rosh Hashanah. And we're discussing about the flood. In this week's Torah portion, we actually speak about the flood, so it's very timely. And we're discussing when did that happen, in which month. The Torah says that it happened in the second month, but which one is the second month? Do we start from Tishrei, do we start from Nisan? And if it happened in the month of Iyar, it wouldn't really fit with the season and the temperature, because in Iyar, it's usually warm. And over here, it says Hashem took out two stars from Kima, which, we were talking about Kima last week. And this is connected with cold. So how would the Mabul happen then? So it says, why did Hashem bring about the flood? People changed the ways of creation. Hashem created the world in a certain way, and people and the animals changed that. They were having relations with things that they weren't supposed to be having, and it was, thank you, sure. They were immoral, so because they changed the ways of creation, Hashem also changed the ways of creation, and instead of it being hot in that month, Hashem brought this whole flood and taking out these stars from Kima.
So because the world was behaving unnaturally, he could do something unnatural like
Yes.
make a flood in the dry season.
Exactly. That's if the flood happened in the month of Iyar, because Iyar is usually warmer. It's a spring. Now, we usually accept that the Mabul happened in Cheshvan, which is this month that we are in now, in Marcheshvan, and then it makes a little bit more, it fits better because now it's a rainy season, and it would make sense to have like a flooding during this time. So how would it have to do with them acting like you said, not in the natural way? It says it's because the waters of the Mabul were actually very hot. They were boiling.
Coming up from underneath also.
Yeah.
So who says that Kima was responsible?
So this is the tradition of the Chachamim, of the rabbis, that Hashem took out 2 stars of
This is a midrash?
This is the oral Torah, the Gemara, yeah, telling us. So we want to understand a little bit more about this. Like, what does this mean, taking out 2 stars of Kima and that brings a flood? Like, what does that mean? How does that relate to the Mabul? So we know Torah, it says it's rich in one place and poor in another. Like, you have to puzzle it together. Sometimes you have one piece where it speaks about it very short, and then another place it speaks about it much more extensive, much more at length. So we're actually going to go to a different Gemara, and I think between the 2 Gemaras we'll be able to put it together. So here we have.
Flip some pages.
But this is actually, it's mostly going to be in these things. I made a little bit more copies. I don't know if it's going to be enough. I hope.
No.
Ran out of paper for the printer.
Oh. Plus you have a stapler, or you do that by hand?
I did it by hand.
That's it?
We got enough?
One for Richie?
Okay.
All right.
So we're looking at this. This is a Gemara on brachos, speaking about different brachos that we make. So there's the Hebrew, and then on the bottom it's translated in English. So you could follow in either of them. I'm going to be reading from a different translation, and I found the different translation a little bit easier for me to read. But you could follow either in the Hebrew or the English.
You mean I got 250 sheets of paper or something?
Sure, I could definitely use some paper.
I think I just bought a ream, so
Oh, thank you.
it'd be good to have.
Yeah, appreciate that. So we always have to be thanking Hashem and blessing Hashem. There's so many different types of brachos. So one of the brachos that we say is when something happens in the world. So the Mishnah says on zikim, there's this word called zikim, and we're trying to understand what is this zikim and what bracha do you make on it. But we know there's a bracha that you make for zikim. We know there's a bracha for thunder, for lightning, and then there's also a bracha for zikim. That's the question. Yeah. So what is zikim? See on the bottom, you see there's the translation here, but I'll be reading and translating from Hebrew, and you could follow along. So the Gemara asks, "My zikim, what is this zikim?" So Amar Shmuel says, "Koichva de Shavit." Shmuel said it's a shooting star. How do they translate it over here? Here they say that it's a comet. I don't know if it's exactly the same
Comets,
thing. It
no,
is.
comet's not a shooting
It's
star.
not a shooting star, but
Comets historically linger in the sky for days, and they're traditionally a harbinger of disaster. Shooting stars are the same stars that land. Something
yes, I was reading something about some. No.
You have to go out and then avoid
Uh-huh.
only when there's a comet in orbit.
You've never seen a meteorite?
shooting stars. Shooting stars is when they enter the Earth's atmosphere.
Shooting stars is when you see a
meteorite.
sparky trail. Well, a comet looks like a star with a frosty projection off of one side of it that moves through the sky over
It
days.
has a long tail,
And sometimes it
Pike's tail.
So it rises and falls with the stars, so it's in the sky here one day with the tail going that way. Next day it's over here, the tail is going this way. Next day it's in the tail going this way.
Towards the sun.
Yeah, it orbits the sun. They orbit the sun, and they pass through the famous one is Halley, who comes every 150 years.
So we're going to discuss that actually,
Okay.
about Halley's Comet. So,
Okay,
na-
let's go.
Astronomically, they're two very different things.
so I don't know, one of the sources over here, this is just when I put up Comet, it says it's an icy, small solar system body that warms and begins to release gases when passing close to the sun, a process called outgassing. So this is how. But we'll see soon about that. Now, so there's a special bracha when you see the shooting star. What bracha do you make? The bracha is Shekochai Mali Olam. Hashem's power fills the world. That's the bracha that you make.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Oh, and we better translate it as universal.
So Shmuel, the Rabbi Shmuel, he explained what the star is, what the zikim are. So now Shmuel says, V'amar Shmuel, Nihir li shvili de rekia kishvili de naharda. Shmuel says, the paths of heaven, the movements of the stars in the sky, are as clear to me as the paths of my hometown Naharda. It's a big thing to say. He's saying that he knows everything what's going on in the sky, just like he knows the streets over here. So just like Kenmore and Taunton and Starin, he knows everything, all the everything what's going on in the sky. That is, with the exception of the path of the shooting star, of which I am ignorant. Which is very strange. Like out of everything, he knows everything else about astrology and everything that's happening in the sky, besides for this shooting star or comet, which he is the one who said what it is. So it's funny that he shouldn't know about it. He's like, I don't know the path of it. And it is known through oral tradition that a shooting star does not pass through the constellation of Kisil. And if it would pass through Kisil, the world would be destroyed. This is what the Gemara teaches us, that this zikim, that either the comet or the shooting star, it cannot pass through Kisil.
No.
How do they
Where it
translate?
says Casil,
Here they
it says
translate
Orion.
Orion. Yeah,
Orion.
Orion. So the Gemara asks, but we see that it does pass through. So how could you say that if it would pass through, the world wouldn't exist? So there's a few answers. The Gemara answers, it is its glow that passes through rather than the shooting star itself, and it appears as though the shooting star itself passes through. So it's only the aura, it's only the light, it's not the actual star. That's one answer. Another definition of zikim, Rav Huna, the son of Rabbi Yeshua, said, it is when the firmament of Vilon is torn, and the light of Rakia is seen through the tear. Tear. Another explanation of how the shooting star appears to pass through Kisil.
Where are you reading now?
So I'm reading a translation of this brachas, but it's a little bit of a different translation.
It's longer,
it's a little bit easier for me to read. So Rav Ashi says it's when a star is removed from one side of Kisil, its companion, that is another star from the other side of Kisil, sees it and becomes agitated. So there's two stars in Kisil itself. One star is going from one side to the other, but because there's movement of one star, the other star gets nervous, gets agitated, and this disappearance of one star from one side of Kisil and the movement of the star on the other side of Kisil appears as if a star has passed from one side of Kisil to the other. So they're saying it's not another star that's passing through Kisil. It's just there's movement going on within Kisil itself, within this Mazal. There's one star moving, and then there's another star that's getting nervous. it's hard.
It says startled and shuddered.
Startled and
You
shuddered.
understand how many light years it takes for us to see something going on in the heavens?
Yeah. So.
You guys are right on top of it.
Mm-hmm. So I'll just mention two notes that they mention over here about zikim. According to the Rambam, I'm reading this outside. According to the Rambam, it looks like a star with a tail, which is a comet. Yaris Dvash and Rabbi Yaakov Emden also define it as a comet, like one that appeared last winter. He is apparently referring to Halley's Comet, which appeared in the winter of 1758-1759. That's one thing. And then what's going on with these stars moving and getting nervous? So this is actually from the Vilna Gaon. Each star was given a certain independent power by Hashem to direct events in this world. When one star sees that another was moved from its position, it becomes frightened that the displaced star will exert greater control on the world and overwhelm the first star.
When they say
So-
displaced star, they're not talking about the comet itself now. They're talking about the stars of the permanent stars of the
Yes.
constellation.
Yeah.
They're talking about the permanent stars of the constellation?
Yes.
That they're freaking out.
Yeah,
Oh, really?
because when
One
they're
gets
moved
famous,
from
the other one
position,
gets nervous.
it means that they're getting another level of power over the world. And
Right. Well, we don't see those stars actually move. I mean, the constellations are fixed.
yeah,
He's
that's-
seeing them, okay.
So we're trying to explain, because we have this tradition that if the shooting star would pass through Ksil, the world wouldn't be able to exist. So we see that it does. So either it's only the light of it, or it's stars moving within Ksil, but it looks like there's a shooting star passing through, but it's not. It's really stars within this Ksil itself.
For 1 second, you said that, did you say that God doesn't know the path of?
Shmuel
Shmuel
said,
does.
Shmuel
said he
the
doesn't
path.
know.
So
Oh.
I was slightly freaked out there.
Yeah.
I don't know, like,
We're just
Oh,
talking
speaking
about
of Shmuel,
Reb
and then
Shmuel.
he appears.
Yes.
Impressive.
Do we have
We didn't
space?
know it
for
was
that?
there.
Ruben, move that away. Richie, Dorian's sitting here, you're sitting over there.
That's me.
You're going over there, he's going over there.
So I'm not sure if this
Okay.
No, here it is.
Okay. So, some space over here.
You can move this. So, yeah, we go to the space.
Okay, so
We're
We're just-
appropriately spaced out.
yes, we
Yeah.
are going into space
It's
over
good
here.
idea.
So we mentioned something that Shmuel said, that there's a special bracha for a shooting star or a comet. And Shmuel said that he knows everything that's going on in the sky. He's so clear with all the different constellations and the different things, besides for the path of the comet or the shooting star. We're still trying to understand why is that, but
This is during the time of Gabriel when they saw Noah's comet.
What?
Shmuel, no, not Shmuel. Shmuel was a lot before then. He's in
Vilna
the time-
Gaon was in the 17th century, you said.
When you talked about
1700s.
Noah's comet in
18th
century. 1750 something.
So that we were talking about Rabbi Yaakov Emden or Rabbi Yonasan Eifshitz. They were much later. Okay, so we're up to Shmuel has another contradiction. So it says in English it would be here on the subject of stars, but I'm reading from a different translation. And the Gemara now discusses the constellation of Kima, which we said we'll see below is a source of coldness. Shmuel poses an apparent contradiction between two psukim, between two verses. In one verse it is written about Hashem, he makes the constellations of Ash, Kisil, and Kima. Here he places the pasuk places Ksil before Kima. But in another pasuk it says he makes Kima and Ksil. So what's the order? Is Ksil before Kima? I think they translated over here as Pleiades and Orion, so that we're trying to see which one comes first. Is it Pleiades or is it Orion?
Pleiades looks like a little dipper.
Mm-hmm.
Orion is like 3 stars, 2 stars, and then a tail for a sword.
Uh-huh. So we're trying to understand what's the order. So how do we understand this? So it must be that the pasuk is telling us that Ksil and Kima are of equal importance, teaching that each one plays an important role in counteracting the effects of the other, as follows. If not for the heat of Ksil, the world would not survive the winter due to the cold of Kima. So Kima is a constellation which is connected to cold, and it would be too strong. It needs to be balanced. And if not for the cold of Kima, the world would not survive the summer due to the heat of Kisil. So the fact that the pasuk is changing the order, one time it says Ksil first, and one time it says Kima first, to tell you that they're equally important. You need to balance each other out in order for the temperature of the world not to be extreme. It shouldn't be too hot in the summer and too cold in the winter.
Is this from Timus?
This is brachas.
Brachas. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. The verse that places Ksil first speaks of the summer, when Ksil has greater effect. The verse that mentions Kima first mentions the winter, when Kima has greater effect. More about the coldness of Kima. we know through an oral tradition that if the tail of the scorpion, here we connect to our month, Marcheshvan, which is Akrav, scorpion, but now it's saying that kima, that is kima, whose formation is similar to that of a scorpion, we're saying that kima is now connected to scorpion, would not have been placed in Nahar Dinor, the stream of fire, whose heat diminishes the power of kima. Anyone bitten by a scorpion would not live. So we have kima, which is cold, and we know that scorpion also, the venom is cold. And it says Hashem had to place the scorpion in some type of river of fire. I don't know exactly what that means, but some type
Milky
of...
Way, it sounds like.
Possibly, I don't know if it's spiritual or physical, but either way, it's saying that if Hashem would not add this heat to the akrav, to the scorpion, then nobody would be able to survive the bite of akrav, of the scorpion, because it would be too cold. The way they explain over here, the reason a scorpion bite is so toxic stems from the extremely cold stars of Kima. Had the cold of Kima not been lessened by the stream of fire, a scorpion's bite would be so powerful that it would cause death every time. This is another
It bothers me that they say bite when clearly scorpions sting with their tail, but
Okay, maybe.
Well, what's the Hebrew
Ukta.
Also,
it
Ukta.
goes either way.
no, it could be a convenient English translation that's not really tied to the Hebrew.
What page are you on right now?
So,
We're in the handout. Page 2 of the handout. Paragraph 3.
okay.
Sorry, paragraph 4.
So, and we bring a pasuk to show this, that there's this balance of a verse. We bring a pasuk, it says, and this is reflected in a pasuk of Eov, that which the merciful one said to Eov, could you tie the bonds of Kima or loosen the shackles of Kisil? The verse implies that stars of Kima are bonded together, since Kima is a source of cold, while the stars of Kisil are looser and freer, since Kisil is a source of heat. Okay, so why is this all important? Because in our Gemara in Rosh Hashanah, we said that how did Hashem bring about the Mabul? Hashem took out stars from Kima in order to bring the Mabul. So we see now that Kima is a source of cold. And now the Gemara asks, actually, what is Kima? My Kima, what is Kima? Shmuel says, this is all Shmuel, it is called so because the power of Kima comes from the approximately 100 stars in its constellation. Kima, in Hebrew, you could read it as Kimeya, like 100. And because there's 100 stars, about 100 stars, it says Kimeya, like 100. That's the power. Now, there is a discussion about these stars, how they're set up. Some say that the 100 stars are gathered together, and some say that they are scattered. Whether their power is,
Interesting. Mikimi after Doyle.
Mikimi, that might be connected to Kima. It's spelled a little bit different.
A little different.
What does Makimi mean in that verse?
Raise me up from the dust.
Yeah. Okay, so we mentioned before there's three in the pasuk in Eov. There's three different constellations that we talk about. There's Ash, Kisil, and Kima. The way they translate it over here is they could translate it here as
Big Dipper is Ash.
Ursa Major,
The Big Dipper.
Orion, and Pleiades. So we already discussed Ksil and Kima. One is a source of cold, one is a source of heat. And now we're going to discuss what is Ush, which is Ursa Major, or like you said, the Big Dipper. So
Or the bear. The Ursa Major translation is the Great Bear.
So we have a lot of different words for it. But in the Torah, it's called Ush. Ush. So they say, what is Ush? Rabbi Yehuda says this is Yuta.
Yoda.
Here they read it, whatever. There could be different ways of pronouncing it. Here they say Yusa. That's the way they write it here. Yusa. So then he says, okay, great translation. The Gemara says, so what is Yusa? I say, Ash is Yusa. And what is Yusa? The Gemara presents two conflicting answers. Some say that it is the tail of ram, and some say that it is the head of bull. The Gemara prefers the first opinion, and it stands to reason. The one who says that Ash is the tail of ram is correct, since it is written, and could you comfort Aish for her children? So now Hashem has to comfort Ash Why does Hashem need to comfort Ash? Which indicates that Ash is missing some of her stars. Why is Ash missing some of the stars? Hashem took them out from the Mabul. So Hashem needs to comfort Ash for taking out those stars. We'll see soon. And we know that the tail of the ram appears as though it had been beaten with a hammer. So to a closed gap that is similar to something that had a hole in it, and beaten with a hammer until the area around the hole extends to cover the hole. The Gemara explains how Ash lost some of her stars, and the reason why Ash, which is the tail of the ram, follows Kima, which is the main body of the ram. So we said Kima is not really its own Mazal. It's not its own constellation. It's part of Tle. It's part of Ram. Aries. So what happened? It says that Ash says to Kima, "Give me my children." Ash makes this demand since when the Holy One, blessed is He, wanted to bring the flood upon the world. This is what we learned in Rosh Hashanah. He took 2 stars from Kima, creating a gap in the heavens, and brought a flood to the world. The waters descended to the world through the gap in the heavens, created by the removal of these stars. Afterward, when he wanted to close the gap in Kima, he took 2 stars from Ash and closed the gap in Kima. Therefore, Ash pursues Kima, demanding the return of her children. That is, her 2 stars that Hashem took away from her and gave to Kima. So this is a very interesting thing that's going on. So Hashem brings a flood. He takes out 2 stars from Kima, but then Hashem, in order to replace that void, Hashem takes from another Mazal, from Ash, and gives it back to Kima. But now Ash says, "Hey, now I lost my stars. Like, what's going on over here?"
The age-old pastime of lying on your back, look at the stars, and coming up with tails.
Yes. So the Gemara asks.
Literal and figurative.
But there's a big question here. So why did Hashem have to take stars from another Mazal and pay it back to Kima? Why couldn't Hashem return those same stars to Kima? Why did he have to take from someone else, and then later the other Mazal is complaining? The Gemara asks, but Hashem should have returned Kima its own stars to her instead of replacing them with stars from Ash. Why did Hashem need to take stars from Ash? The Gemara gives 2 answers. A pit cannot be filled with its own earth. That means it is impossible to refill a pit completely with only the earth that has been taken out from its first place. Yep, because there's
So
some...
interesting, right? It's true.
Yeah?
But why?
It's the other way around.
So likewise, after the stars were taken from Kima, they could no longer fill the gap their removal had created.
But is it true? Because every time I see a grave, well,
Yeah, I know.
but there's a coffin in it, which
Yeah,
just
but even though,
it's a
if
small
you dig it
amount.
up, the soil gets loose, there's some,
But,
Yeah.
there's capacity.
but there's probably they add some earth also from, no?
Yeah.
They add some earth, there's a coffin, and it still only makes a small mound. It doesn't make a mound the size of a coffin. So, yeah, there's a deficit.
Okay, there you go.
So that's one thing. One answer, yes, it doesn't get refilled, so Hashem had to take it from another Mazal. Alternatively, a prosecutor cannot become a defender. What does that mean? Why did Hashem use these stars? Hashem used these stars to bring a flood, which is something negative, right? We don't want to use these same stars again to provide whatever the world needs, so that wouldn't be good. The removal of stars from Kima brought punishment on the world. Therefore, those same stars cannot bring an end to a punishment. The Gemara asks further, but let Hashem create 2 other stars for Kima instead of taking stars from Ash. What's this whole thing? Okay, so we don't want to return them because they're already used for the Mabul, or it won't be able to fill it. But why can Hashem create new ones for Kima? The Gemara answers, there's nothing new beneath the sun. Hashem would not create 2 other stars since nothing new has been created in the universe since the 6 days of creation.
So what happened to the 2 stars? Did they get used up?
That's what it looks like for the Mabul.
Wow.
That's, yeah.
Well, they heated up the water.
For boiling.
Or they brought the cold. The fact that Hashem took out the stars.
It's cold around the
Somehow that brought the Mabul.
Well, they had no idea the size of the stars, so.
Yeah. So the Gemara concludes, Nachman said, in the future, HaKadosh Baruch Hu will restore Ash's stars to her. For it says, this is again from Iyov, or lead Aish together with her children. The verse thus implies that Hashem will reunite Ash with her children. So at the end of the day, even though Hashem had to take 2 stars away from Ash to return it to Kima, Hashem will, when Mashiach will come, will comfort Ash for taking away some of the stars.
Did you just use a male reference? Because it's interesting, like are the stars all referred to as female? Because
Her sons. So
interesting.
the constellation is female, but the stars are male. Her is the constellation, sons are the stars in
That's
it.
interesting, right?
Yeah.
But anyway,
And it's interesting that we're giving this comparison of a mother and the children. We're saying that
Right, exactly.
and it's like, why are you taking away my children? It's like you took away my stars. It looks like it's really important. So, okay, so this is kind of how we put together the puzzle. We understand a little bit more what's Ksil and what's Kima and how it's connected to the flood. Now, the first saying of Shmuel is very puzzling. He says, I could figure everything out besides for the comet. Why is that? So I found one of the commentaries in the back, and it says something very, very interesting. So this is from Rabbi Yonasan Eibshitz, mentioned before. And he says clearly that Koichva de Shavit hu kamet. He writes it in Hebrew. Kuf Aleph Mem Ayin Tes. Hu kamet. He says this is a comet. And he says Shanira.
Excuse me, when did he write this?
This is in the 1750s.
And he's writing towards English, or comet is a word from another language? I don't know.
I don't know, but it's interesting. He spells it out. He spells it out. Hu kamet. In French, it's also.
There you go.
Oh, okay.
We have a linguist in our group.
And
no, I know, it's so awesome.
And he says
Really?
that this was seen b'chayra fa'avar in the past winter, and we said this is referring to Halley's comet. Ubeli safik sheyeda mahusa. He says everyone knows what it is. Like he says, all the astrologers in these times know, and he defines what this comet is. Shuni maestris tapsela sakichavim. He says it's like from the outgassing, like we said before, from the stars. The chamimus, from the heat, the idin, like vapor, vakter, sa'elam and ha'aretz shemiskabtin. He says some of it comes from the earth. So why didn't Shmuel know it? Like if he knew everything else, and everyone knows what a comet is, so why was Shmuel said?
No, Shmuel is before this.
Yes.
And when did this
So
gentleman?
he never saw Haley.
No, but this rabbi is saying that he's assuming that it's something which is, people know about it.
When
like
did he write this?
1750s.
Yeah, so long after the development of a telescope. So you see with your naked eye.
Right, but he's saying if Shmuel knew everything else, why specifically this?
The Tanaim were experts. One of them in the Gemara, they knew exactly which star was where.
Yeah, and he says like the streets in my town. He says that's how well I know the skies.
Right.
But besides,
He didn't know a comet.
but he didn't know a comet. So it's like what's going on over here? So this rabbi explains in a fascinating way why Shmuel did not know what a comet was. He says usually things go around, like we mentioned before. There's a circle that they cycle around. So Shmuel is saying like this. We know that the stars, the Rambam says, the stars have a level of intelligence. That they're not just things that are like just dead bodies. They actually have understanding. And when they move around the earth, it's actually, their movement is showing they're like acknowledging Hashem. They're like bowing in front of Hashem. We say in the Barchi Nafshi, the sun moves around, the moon is moving around.
Everything's revolving.
It's revolving. And what is that doing? It's showing that they're accepting Hashem is in charge. So he says, I understand the stars, I understand their purpose. Shmuel says, when he says that I know the stars, he's not just saying that he knows what they are, I understand their purpose, I understand what they're doing, they're acknowledging Hashem. But he says a comet, what is a comet? He says it's coming from these gases or coming, it's just like made up of psilus, he calls it. Psilus is just junk, pretty much. So he says, Bli das klal. He says, this doesn't really have knowledge. It's not like a regular star. So he says, Lama yisayve v'tnuasa yom yom. So he says, why is it moving around? what is its purpose? That's what bothered Shmuel. V'gam sheyeh b'teva habayre. He says, and what is its purpose in the nature of creation? Ki eich yucha kateva v'davar she'ene b'metzius. Why would Hashem put a nature into something which is not a substantial existence? It's not something which has, like, that exists regularly. V'hu mikri ba'alma. He says that just like happens from time to time. V'lekach hispali by Shmuel. That's what Shmuel was wondering about. So this is a deeper understanding.
It's happening all the time. We only see it some of the time.
Very hard to see with the naked eye.
No, I'm just
No,
saying.
not necessarily.
I'm just saying that the comet is,
Nowadays it is.
the comet is always there.
No. Their path, if this is the solar system, a
Right.
comet's path is like this.
Right.
Okay? So only when it gets about here to here can you see it.
That's my point.
Oh, so all of this you're saying.
It still
there.
exists. It's just
Yeah.
we don't see it.
But they only see it enter the sky for a couple of weeks every 150 years in the case of Halley's, or randomly in the case of, what was the name of that comet that came through 5 years ago?
Some of the came.
Yeah, exactly.
So-
There's all these different comets that come through, and they're very rare, but they come through, they all have their own orbits, so they're all weird, and then they have the way the tail
Remember
points.
we were looking for it
Yeah.
outside.
Well, yeah, I couldn't find it, the last one that was here.
But the thing about Halley's is it's unusually big and bright, and some of these others are fainter. So, but Halley's is, but that 150 years, that means you go your whole lifetime without seeing it.
Without seeing it. So you could say, even if it's happening all the time, he's like, why is Hashem showing this to us?
Okay.
He's like, okay, so like, why do we just see this like once in a while? What's the message for us? That's what Shmuel was asking. So, and he says here, the ein rak lahidia koyach Chazal. Our Gemara is also coming to teach us the power of the rabbis. Shaya yadam shlema b'chol mada v'chachma v'das kedeshim. That the rabbis were not only knowledgeable in the Torah, but they had knowledge of every type of. They knew astronomy. We learn in the Rambam. The Rambam has laws about the moon, and then he continues. V'yikach ish musar b'koyach v'yashamayim. If we would only take a lesson from the stars in the heaven, kama yiyah zariz v'charid b'dvar Hashem. How much would a person fear and be quick and swift to do what Hashem says? You're just thinking about the stars. V'ulai gam latanzeh. Maybe this is the reason that the Arizal says that the Shas HaTzvila during davening, it's a good minhag to look through the window up to the heaven. Why? Because if you'll see the movement of the stars, or you see what's going on in the heaven, this could inspire you to daven better, to connect to Hashem more.
Also to see how
Stars
minute we
cannot
are.
be counted.
Also
Even
how
though
many,
it says sometimes that Hashem does count the numbers of the stars.
Hashem can count them.
Hashem could, we
Yeah,
can.
yeah, we can.
We can.
No, but that's
But
also
in
a double-edged, because what do we call non-believers, non-Jews?
Of Dekochav, but that means servants of.
No, but no, that's my point. It's a fine. You didn't have to be very careful. That we understand it's from Hashem. It's not from the stars themselves.
Right.
Also,
Now-
the brucha of the stars not being counted is like the Yidden. When they do what's right, there's a multiplicity of all the mitzvahs, etc. They won't be numbered. They'll
And-
continue to go on, the door by door.
Right, and that's the bracha Hashem said to Avram. We should be like
Right.
the earth, the sand, and the stars.
Exactly.
Now, it's interesting that that's all he says, because I go back again to the commonly held belief through millennia that comets were associated with disaster. So are you going to bring that up, or?
And he didn't mention that about disaster, but that could be part of his question. Like, what's the point of this?
To foretell disaster.
He doesn't go into that.
I mean, that's a belief through Roman times, Greek times, all the way back.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, all through civilization. Look up comet and disaster, you'll find a ton of material on it.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yes. So, but it's just interesting how he explains the Gemara. It's not that Shmuel didn't know what a comet is. He's just saying, I don't understand what lesson I could learn from it. From the other stars, he was able to take some musar. He was able to daven better.
Well, that's why I was wondering, because if it's a messenger of disaster, then that's the lesson you take, that when a comet appears in the sky, you must really, wonder and do tshuva and worry about what is the din that is coming your way and why. So that's why I'm curious for one of these guys to touch on that.
Yeah, I wonder if Shmuel would agree with that theory. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know.
Not a belief in it.
Okay, so speaking about the scorpion, we mentioned in the Gemara that if Hashem wouldn't put it in this river of fire, then it would kill everyone. So we're in this booklet over here. It doesn't have numbers, but after the translation of the previous Gemara,
What are the first 3 words?
the first words on the page is the Gemara asks, and it says afilu nachash karach
Even if a snake is wrapped around his heel.
Yeah.
Yes, I
So,
remember from booklet.
so the Gemara tells us that if someone is davening, and okay, I'll read it in English. We learned in the Mishnah that even if a snake is wrapped around his heel, he may not interrupt his prayer. We're talking about Shemona Esrei, right? In limiting application of this principle, Rav Sheshet said, they only taught this Mishnah with regard to a snake. As if one does not attack the snake, it will not bite him. But a scorpion approaches an individual while he is praying, he stops, as the scorpion is liable to sting him even if he does not disturb him. Here they use the word sting.
Yeah, you just sting throughout in the previous
Yeah,
page too. Your translation said bite,
Bite.
ours said sting.
If you see a dangerous scorpion, depending on the color, etc., in Israel, it's supposed to kill him.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it is even on Shabbos or things
Even
like
on
that.
Shabbos,
Yeah.
But this says if you're doing Shemona Esrei and a snake wraps itself around you, let alone approaches you,
You continue.
chill, bro.
Yeah. I don't know how you continue davening, but
I'm a little more distracted than that.
And stop suckling, that's for sure.
If a bug flies around me.
yeah. So there's a deeper explanation of this Mishnah. It says like this. What could this represent? He said the difference between a snake and a scorpion, the venom of a snake is hot, the venom of a scorpion is cold. So what happens if you daven and all of a sudden in the middle of your warmth and excitement of your davening, you get all of a sudden a desire for something else. You get excited about, I don't know, some good food, something. So that could be an example of a snake trying to stop you in your davening. So what do? The Mishnah says, don't stop. Why? Because as long as you're heated, as long as you're excited, you have a passion for something, even if it's going to the wrong direction, you could tune it up. You could just switch it to the good. Even if you have some taiva, some desire to something else, just switch it. You say, instead of this desire to this drink, I'll turn it to the davening. But if a person gets cold in the middle of davening, what if a scorpion comes and is about to bite, which means the person all of a sudden, he feels, I'm not excited to daven.
He loses his kavanah.
He loses his kavanah. Mishnah says, yafsik. You have to stop. You have to start again. Davening without warmth, without excitement, it doesn't go. You really have to get yourself excited to continue davening.
If you're ever davening and you realize that you don't remember what you read the past two tefillos, I go back. Or at least I make it all the way to the end and then go back and reread them. Because
You're saying if you don't remember it.
if you read a Shemona Esrei without kavanah, that's kind of like someone cooled you off.
Yeah.
That's personal. I don't know if it relates, but
There's different levels of kavanah. So now, thinking about this, I got a little bit discouraged because we're in the month of Marcheshvan, which is Akrav, and it's starting to get cold, and we're talking about being cold from davening, and you have to stop the davening. So, what positive thing could we take from the Akrav? So on the last page over here, we have from the Bnei Yisachar. He actually says Yisaschar. He would, there's two sins, but I'll translate. So Bnei Yisachar. That's the way he read it.
where are you on the page now?
On the top of the page.
Oh, okay, the
Yeah.
top 9, yeah.
So he's discussing our month, the month of Marcheshvan. So the last page. The kasavnu al pi akdama Yisaschar. We usually say Yisachar, but here the kasavnu al pi akdama yedua b'medrash. He introduces to us something which is known in the medrash. Hamishkan she'asa Moshe. The Mishkan,
Hang on a second. What's going on with you guys?
Other-
I'm distracted.
Trying to get all the way on that page.
maybe there's a problem in the copies.
Right,
Okay. No.
Okay.
So it's known in the Medrash that Hamishkan she'asa Moshe, the Mishkan, the sanctuary that Moshe made, hini nishlam beKislev. When was the Mishkan completed? In the month of Kislev. V'tziva Hashem Yisbarach l'hamtin b'chinuchai. When was it inaugurated? That was only the month of Nisan.
So it took a couple of months.
Yeah, which is the month that Yitzchak, Yarech Sheneled by Yitzchak.
So wait a minute, between the time they finished the Mishkan and the time they finally did all the sacrificial rehearsals and set it up and finally lit the fire and the fire came down, that was all the way through to,
From Kislev to Nisan.
wow,
Yeah.
okay.
Now,
3 months.
yeah, that's a while. We'll see soon. Sometimes it took even longer. So,
Took an Agar base.
if he had another other, yeah, it would be even longer. So this is an interesting concept. It says, "Vaya Kislev misbayish." The month of Kislev was embarrassed. It says, what do you mean? The Mishkan was finished in Kislev, and you're only making the inauguration in Nisan. That's not fair. Why doesn't it happen in Kislev? And this is also a lesson. You see, even if we have to be sensitive to a month, we should be sensitive to other people's feelings. Either way, V'shilem Hashem Yisbarach Scharai b'chinuch bayasheni. Hashem repaid the month of Kislev in the inauguration of the second Beis Hamikdash in the times of the Chashmonaim. Chanukah, what is Chanukah? Rededication, the inauguration of the Mishkan. V'huladeiros Yimei Chanukah. This is for all generations the holiday of Chanukah.
We fill it with the candles and light. So where the sacrifice was delayed until Nisan, the fires of the sacrifice were held back until Nisan. So now we fill Kislev with fire.
Nice.
Yeah, now does it say that because the Mishkan is finished, what about all the implements and everything? Is that also finished then?
In Kislev? It says in general that it was completed. I'm not sure everything, not sure, yeah.
I just remember Rabbi Haber talking or maybe it was your son, Ruvain, or maybe it was Joey, talking very vividly about how everything was done and they went to light and nothing happened. And then they go into the tent and then they come back out and then they light and this time the fire comes down. So there was a whole huge suspension, like everybody's holding their breath waiting for it to work.
Mm-hmm.
And that finally happened in Nisan.
In
So
Nisan.
we don't know how many rehearsals they had, but apparently 3 months worth or at least a lot.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So the point over here is that when was the second Beis Hamikdash? When was the chinuch? When was inauguration? That happened in the month of Kislev, Hanukkah.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what about the first Beis Hamikdash? Hini Bayis Rishon Shabana Shloimeh, the first temple that Shloimeh built. Nishlam b'chodesh hazeh Marcheshvan. It was completed in the month of Cheshvan. Kimvor b'kasav Yerach Bul. There's another name for this month. It's called the month of Bul.
Taurus.
Bul. Bul could also be like from the word mabul. Mabul. Yeah.
Bull was one of the ones they mentioned earlier.
Yeah. V'hine al pi ruach hakodesh, based on ruach hakodesh, Holy Spirit. Loichin chushloimai ad yerach haisanim tishrei. Again, it didn't happen at the same time. It was completed in the month of Cheshvan. But when did they do the inauguration? The following Tishrei.
Wow.
Yeah. Based on ruach hakodesh, they had this.
They knew to wait.
They knew to wait.
Okay.
And again, Cheshvan was embarrassed. Cheshvan is like, hey, the Mikdash is ready. Why don't you make a whole inauguration? Why are you waiting till next Tishrei?
Misvayesh?
Misbayish, yeah.
Okay.
Like
Busha.
Busha, yeah. So what is Hashem going to do to repay Cheshvan? V'hivtiach Hashem Yisbarach. Hashem promised Cheshvan l'shalem schare, to repay it, but la'asad b'mherav yaminu b'binyan shlishi, in the third Beis Hamikdash. That the third Beis Hamikdash is going to be built in the month of Cheshvan in order to to pay back the month of Cheshvan for not making the inauguration then in the second Beis Hamikdash.
And even further, Cheshvan has no Yom Tovim. So Cheshvan really gets the heel end of the calendar.
So it really needs to get
Yeah,
something,
I know
right?
that when they make the bulletin boards.
Yeah, it's like, what do you put in
What do I do
Cheshvan?
in
That's why it's called.
Adkan.
Adkan Teichen Divri. Medrash. This is the Medrash. Huva b'yalkut malachim. Imkain. He says, so if we think about this, nira mavor mizeh, amazing thing.
Sorry, what?
Imkain nira mavor mizeh. We see explained from this. The chinuch bayis hashlishi b'mherav yemenu. The third Beis Hamikdash. When is it going to be inaugurated? Yeh b'Marcheshvan. Imkain, chinuch kol hashloisha batzim hem be'elu gimel chadashim. This is amazing. The 3 Beis HaMikdash were all inaugurated in these 3 months. Tishrei, Bayis Rishon. Tishrei was the inauguration of the first Beis HaMikdash. Marcheshvan, the month that we're in now, is going to be the 3rd Beis HaMikdash. And Kislev was the inauguration of the 2nd Beis HaMikdash. So we have them out of order, 1, 3, 2.
But all in this one sector of the year,
Yeah, 1,
between fall and winter,
yeah.
between summer and winter, I should say.
So, if we, first of all, if we just think about it, this is an amazing thing. This is the month that Hashem says He's going to build the 3rd Beis HaMikdash. So that's a good thing about Cheshvan.
Not build it.
Inauguration.
Inaugurated.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, to have them-
Right.
So now,
Rabbi Goldstein
I
said
don't know,
last
it's
night,
all
this is
the-
it, it's gonna be inaugurated.
They're all,
Amen.
there's months
With the
in between
war.
when they're built and when they're.
yeah, we really hope it's.
Does it say when it'll be built?
No.
Doesn't say. So.
Well, some people say it's going to just.
So that's a
down.
whole discussion, if we're going to build it or it's going to come down from Shemayim. But now why? Why this month? Why is this month connected to the 3rd Beis HaMikdash? Yotzi lanu mikol zeh. What we take out of all of this, chinuch habayis hamakaved, the house that we're waiting for, b'mheirav yameinu, yeh b'chodesh hazeh mar cheshvan, is going to be during this month. The time Rabba Ispe, there's a great reason for this. What is that? Al pi asher shamaiti mikvod Adoni Meri Harav HaKadosh Meharav Menachem Mendel Zitzukal. I think this is Menachem Mendel of Rimanov.
Not
My-
Buffalo?
Can you translate what you're saying here?
So he says, the reason why the 3rd Beis HaMikdash is going to be inaugurated in this month is based on something that I heard from my teacher, Reb Menachem Mendel. I'm not sure which one, but I think Rimanov, possibly. The Rimanov Rebbe. Asher Ineinu Rayim. He says something that we see. Kol hagzeres hamischatches al seini Yisrael min hamalchiyos. A lot of decrees which come upon us from the different governments, v'cheinesinas hamasim varnunius, and all the taxes, haschalosan tamid min Marcheshvan. He says there's a lot of problems that happen to the Jewish people during this month. He says we see it.
We see it now.
And he says, why is that? We see it now also, unfortunately. Va'amar atam, why is this month blessed with these problems? Shabachodesh hazeh haisa hamerida b'malchus Beis David. In this month, there was a rebellion against the kingdom of Beis David, of David.
Is this the David Absalom?
This is Yeravam. The Amlichu es Yeravam. They appointed Yeravam. And he says, that's why Al Kain Gzeras Hamalchius b'Marcheshvan. That's why we have problems from the government in this month, because we went against our government, the Malchus Beis David, Ad Kan Divrei Katshe. This is from the Rimanov Rebbe. So now, that's from the negative. V'hinei lefiza tisbainin. Based on this, we can understand. Liyay shachatu Yisrael, because the Jews sinned. V'amru az b'chodesh zeh re'ei beis David. And they said, like, okay, we don't really need the house of David, we'll just do Yeravam. Al kain be'es hatikun v'mheirav yameinu. When we want to fix this, hine yimloich melech beis David. We know that Mashiach is going to come of Davidic descent. V'yischanech habayis b'Marcheshvan. We're going to fix that problem. V'yisukan ha'elam b'malchus, and the world is going to be fixed with the right malchus, with the right government, which is from Mashiach and David.
In Marcheshvan.
In Marcheshvan. So the problems are in Marcheshvan, but the solution is there. It's Hashem is gonna fix that problem.
Well, on the bright side, if we always have the solution created before the problem, that means that it's there, waiting in the wings. Okay.
Yeah, that's what it says. Hashem prepares the remedy before the sickness.
It's been waiting for
Chazak,
thousands of
Chazak.
years now.
Now let's get back to the scorpion, and this is in Hebrew. It's amazing. Akrav. If you take the word akrav, you could divide it into two. Iker beis, the main beis. What's beis? Bayis, the main house. The main house is the 3rd Beis HaMikdash. Iker bayis, the main house, Hamakuva, that we're waiting for. Yeh b'chodesh hazeh chinuchai. In this month will be the inauguration. So instead of looking at Akrav as a scorpion as something bad, read it, Iker Bayis, the main house. Gam, this is also phenomenal. Akrav, Gematria David Mashiach. The Gematria of Akrav is David Mashiach. I did it. You can try it out. It comes out to that. Yeah, it is. Asher b'chodesh Marcheshvan, that in this month of Marcheshvan, Yeh hatikun will be the fixing asher pagma Yisrael, what the Jews damaged. B'amro ein lanu chelik b'David. He said, we don't need David. Re'eves David. Hine yevakshus Hashem Elokeinu. And this month we will seek Hashem ve'ez David Malcolm and also David b'mheira v'yameinu amen. So this is very powerful from this Bnei Yissaschar speaking about this month. How from one hand you have a lot of negative things, the rebellion against Malchus Beis David, but on the other hand we have the promise that the third Beis Hamikdash will be inaugurated in this month.
Just so, please help me here. Bnei Yissaschar is the name of a commentator or a book by a commentator?
Yes, he was the Dinover Rebbe.
The Dinover Rebbe, okay.
Dinover Rebbe.
So why does he say Yissaschar instead of Yissachar the way we always pronounce it?
He had this tradition that we should read it because there is a second sin.
Yeah.
Like, why is it silent? So
I've
he
read
says,
all sorts of reasons why it's
Yeah,
not
but-
that I can remember a single one anytime.
but he says you should pronounce it.
Okay,
so
so
that
The
was
Torah, it says according to your minhag,
yeah.
there are different ways of pronouncing it.
Yeah,
Every
okay.
way.
All right, so thank you.
So he
And
had.
when did he do his thing?
I'm not sure. I have to
Okay.
check. You could search Bnei Yissaschar. It's the truth is I haven't learned much from him, but just reading this, I'm like I want to learn
Yeah,
more
right.
about. Okay, so one more thing about Akrav. This is from a Gemara Sanhedrin. The Gemara says, this is the last paragraph on the page. Shloisha bain Pesach Hadas. There are three things that come without being prepared, like without knowledge of it. What are these three things that happen without being ready? Mashiach, Mitzia, Akrav. The three things that come without being prepared, without knowledge, is
Unexpectedly.
unexpectedly, good word, Mashiach, Mitzia, finding something, and getting bitten by a scorpion.
All comes back.
There's a snake in my boot. Well,
So-
it's a scorpion this one.
So think about it, like these three things are very different. You have Mashiach, you have a scorpion, and you have finding something, finding something in the street. Why does the Gemara put these three things together? What's the lesson over here, and what are we trying to tell us? Kolal elu hashloisha b'inyan zeh. So this is from the Maharsha, and he says like this: Im zacha b'hesach hadas shel Mashiach. So it says like this: Mashiach is going to come either way, unexpectedly, but it could come in a good way, in a way of mitzia, like finding an object or finding a diamond. Shesimcha v'toiva hilai, that you're happy and you're rejoicing. That's if we merit Mashiach in that way. Loi zacha, but if unfortunately we're not worthy, then yilai bias Mashiach kasach hadas and shichas akrav l'rolai. Mashiach might be like a bite of a scorpion. So, Mashiach is something good, but the question is, how do you take it?
Some would argue that the
So-
Holocaust followed by the inauguration of the State of Israel fulfills that second one.
Yeah, there's a lot of
There's also,
Different.
something that was in the OU magazine, which was when the majority of the nations recognized the Jewish, the nation of the Jews, then it's the Yemei Mashiach. So
This
according to
is
that very liberal opinion, we're in Yemei Mashiach, but it came with an Akrav for sure.
many rabbis say
Yeah, I
that that's
understand. It's just
whatever,
one opinion.
it's different opinions, right? So either way,
It's an interesting one in context, is what I'm saying. Yeah.
so just to conclude, Akrav. So Akrav, scorpion, it could be a bite. It could be Iker bias, the main thing of the Beis Hamikdash. It's the gematria of David and Mashiach. And Akrav, it's connected to cold, we said, right? But the thinking about Mashiach and cold, what is Mashiach for? Mashiach is not only for the Jewish people, Mashiach is for the entire world. So Mashiach is going to transform even the coldness. Not only people that are warm and excited to do what Hashem wants, even something that looks dark and cold and it might be biting, Mashiach is going to change that all, even of cold. The story of the Baal Shem Tov, he said one time there was no light in the shul. And the Baal Shem Tov said, take the icicles and light them.
Right.
So it was obviously a miracle, but there's also a lesson there. By the Baal Shem Tov, even icicles can burn. Even something which is cold, even in such a month which is cold and you don't see any Yom Tov or whatever, Mashiach, and we all have the power to transform this month into good, and we should have Mashiach now.
Amen. Shivaya.
Yes. only order the Jew has in the Torah to kill is a mullet.
Amalek is cold.
A mullet is cold. A mullet is the cold Yetzer Hara.
Yeah.
The dampener.
And that is the order. Kill it like the scorpion.
Yeah.
The
You can't continue.
You cannot continue.
You gotta get-
When a mullet is there, and actually,